nearly a month. Well, over a month and a few days. I've been here now. I think I arrived on the 13th of last month, and it is the 15th today. And a lot has changed. Well, no, a lot hasn't changed. A lot has evolved. I stopped writing a diary after the second week, maybe like 2 weeks and a few days. For a few reasons. I think I've never wrote a diary properly. I think I did one when I've done a bit of travelling in the past, just to kind of, as a bit of a memento. And it really helped me write in a diary here for the first few weeks, just a little bit of each day, just because it gave me a chance to reflect, much like this is hopefully going to do, and has been doing. But yeah, so I really settled in. In the past few weeks, I've really settled in. I feel I'm dealing with the kind of momentum here and the day-to-day kind of ritual, especially with the getting up, because I mean it's still difficult and it's still hard, but I have only been sleeping between 5 and 6, 4 and 6 hours a night. And 90% of the time I feel perfectly energised. I think the key to a lot of it is just keeping yourself occupied the whole time and trying to be as fully engaged in the activities as possible. And also the practices kind of boost a lot of energy. So I've picked up some new practices since the last video. I did a Yoga Asanas program on top of the Surya Kriya, which I think I'd already done or was doing in the last video. And Yoga Asanas is kind of the fundamental kind of postures of Hatha Yoga, the sun and moon. It's a truly like balancing process of balancing the physical and also the mental full aspects of the body, and it's incredible. I've done other Hatha Yoga programs before, or other Hatha Yoga before coming to Isha, and I must admit the knowledge and the understanding that was in this program and that's already within. I've only been practicing it every day. I think I've been doing Yoga Asanas now. It takes me about an hour and a half in the morning. That's not including all the other practices I'm doing. And over 4 days of doing it, I've seen some crazy changes in my physical body, also my mindset, but mainly my physical body are the first things that I'm seeing. Things that I was really struggling with 4 or 5 days ago, seem to be progressing. So it's immense what A, the practice can do when it's taught properly, and B, what if you do something every day for a few hours, how quick you progress. And I've never seen that progression so quick. You know, whenever I've done yoga in the past, it's been once a week, or climbing or anything, it might be a couple of times a week. And so yeah, that's been amazing. Come in, Mr. Ant. And that in line with Surya Kriya in the morning has been amazing. That fills me with a lot of energy. Surya Kriya's, the idea of Surya Kriya is to harness the solar energy that's within our body. You know, we're taught that all energy on this planet comes from solar, from the sun, which was quite, you know, this is so funny about the kind of Vedic yogic science that I'm learning here. A lot of it just makes total sense, like straight off the bat. Like when someone explains it, you're kind of like, yeah, of course it is. But we just don't pay enough attention, I suppose, or gratitude towards these incredible forces that have made our life possible. And I suppose we don't see the capabilities of harnessing it, especially in many parts of the world. But the idea of Surya Kriya is to really harness the solar energy that's within the body, that obviously we're constantly soaking up, but also have been like a battery storing all of our life. We take it from the food that we eat, the water that we drink, you know, absolutely everything. We're soaking it up right now, even though it's quite cloudy. So yeah, that feels amazing. I must admit, it's not easy. I'm doing about 3.5 hours every morning. So there's a few kind of preparatory stuff I'm doing, and then Surya Kriya, yoga asanas, and then I do Shambhavi, which is Mahamudra Kriya, which is the kind of the first thing that I learned through inner engineering. That's the main, and probably the most, no, they're all incredibly powerful, not the most powerful, but probably the most spiritually transformative process. And it's incredibly subtle, which means it's incredibly hard. And I do feel that that's got a longevity. Like all of these practices, I'd like to keep practicing daily for years to come. But Shambhavi is subtle in its effect, and I feel like the big kind of, because it's not too physical, you don't see as much of a progression as maybe something like yoga asanas or Surya Kriya. But all of them together have been incredible. Really, I probably wouldn't, you know, if anyone is interested in doing any yoga programs, then I'd highly recommend it. I can't recommend them enough. Obviously, yoga is not an easy subject. And funnily enough, when we were in both the classes, you know, half of the class were kind of saying, why is it so difficult? Why is this so hard? Why do they have to make it so difficult? And I feel like that's what everyone says. I mean, these postures, I can't remember how many they said they were, maybe 100 roughly, that were kind of originally, back in the first yogi time, were kind of found certain postures that the human body can make that really balance every aspect of the human body, every part, every limb, every muscle, every part of energy, every energy kind of space within the body. And you know, these postures aren't easy. Some you'll find easier than others, and all our body types are different, and depending how we sit and how we hold ourselves and everything else will depend on what parts of our body aren't balanced. And that's the key of it, really, is to balance. So you wouldn't work on one more than the other. You know, I think it's quite blatant. Anyone that's done fitness, and even I found this in climbing, you know, even though climbing's quite a full body exercise, if we're talking about the physical, you still overwork certain muscles, and there's still a lot of climbers that have incredibly bad upper back problems. And a lot of weightlifters and any other form of exercise find these same problems, that if you kind of overwork one part of your body, other bodies suffer, and you can actually cause a lot of damage. Within climbing, there's a lot of upper back problems, and you have to do several muscles on the back. Some are outer and some are kind of layered underneath, and you need to be kind of healthy and balanced. You need to balance all of them. It's not easily done with certain forms of climbing. And I suppose every sport has that. Now, the beautiful thing about yoga is that these progressions are sequences. They're not things that you should just do one move as it is. You should learn the sequence and the preparatory asanas, and you should do it in this progression, and each move should be done for approximately the same amount of time. So it does create balance. And maybe some parts might not be worked as much as others, but eventually you will kind of build that process together, and your body should then be balanced. And I find it very powerful, and it's difficult, you know, getting up after 4 to 6 hours a night and jumping straight into a 3.5 hour practice, and I'm dripping with sweat, and it's not even that hot here. It's difficult, and it takes a lot of inner strength, but you know, this is the fundamental thing at the moment, is that I'm aiming for balance, and I feel like these practices, to say they'll get easier isn't the case. I do think they will get easier to a certain extent, but then obviously when that gets easier, you want to push it a bit more. I think there's certain postures, for me, doing leg raises in a position called the boat. I don't know that this is it. I really wish I could remember the Sanskrit names, because they're really they're a serious mouthful, and I'm going to aim to do that in the duration of my stay. But yes, the boat, the leg raises, it's a lot of core work I really struggle with, and I shake like a shitting dog. But I'm getting there, and that was where I saw a big improvement after just 4 or 5 days of practicing just yoga asanas, so that was amazing. Now I know I really didn't, I didn't plan what I wanted to do when I came here. I really wanted to just dive in and kind of soak it up and see what was best for me without kind of committing to too much, with an open prospect of staying as long as possible. Now there's a program that lasts 7 months, I don't know if I mentioned it in the last video, called Sadhana Pada. It's a 7-month program, and the aim of it is to really enable you to kind of have a chance at doing every part of the what's taught here in an environment where you're going to get more chance to kind of correct the processes and the practices, and you also get just generally more of a push because of the dedication that you will be given. There's people who can come here just for one course, one program that might last a couple of days. People might just come for a week as a bit of a break between things. And then you get all the way up to the brahmacharis that stay here for minimum 12 years plus. So, but I really feel like, Sadhana Pada just seemed like the right move for me. So I've got an interview in 3 days for that. I feel confident that I'm going to get it because I've been here for a while, and I'm going to be here for another month before I head off and do some travelling before coming back for Sadhana Pada. So that's the plan, is to do a 7 to maybe 10 month program and extension to kind of do a little bit of everything. So because I was planning to do that, I didn't really want to rush anything, and these, my advice to anyone if they wanted to experiment with some yoga is find an Isha Hatha yoga teacher and do yoga asanas. I think that should be the first thing that everyone does. It's an hour and a bit, and maybe you won't be able to stick it in your everyday life straight away, which I think you should, and that is what you need to aim to do. But even if you do it every couple of days, it will be an incredible, you'll feel such a difference in your body, and you'll feel such an incredible sense of balance. And it's something you can learn in a few, I think it's like 3 days. So, and they weren't full days, these were just like a few 3-hour sessions, morning and evening. And I feel like that's a really good one to start. Now, inner engineering, if you don't feel like you really want to dive into yoga, and you really just want maybe a half an hour, 20-minute meditation / physical start to the day, or something incredibly powerful that will help as a form of transcending who you are now into something better and bigger, then do inner engineering and Shambhavi. Because inner engineering, the course, is incredibly amazing because it's got so much material on all aspects of life that can give you a really good fundamental overview of health and happiness and success and everything. The online course was amazing for me, and I didn't spread it out as long as it could do, and I wasn't fully committed, and I think doing a course, coming to do that here in maybe the 4-day retreat would be more powerful. You don't have to do it here, you can do it in America, and there is prospects for so many other centres, Isha centres being built across the world very, very soon. But inner engineering was very powerful, but Shambhavi is so subtle, and it's the kind of thing that I feel like if you have even an inkling of thinking, actually I wouldn't mind experimenting with a bit of yoga and seeing how it makes me feel, then the best route that I would have liked to have gone would have been studying yoga asanas first. Just because really the first thing that we can work with is the body and the mind. I mean, we're always working with the mind, but the body, we see quick changes, and it fills us with a kind of energy to really push forward and to keep going. I think Shambhavi, because it's so subtle and it's mainly focused on energy within the body, and I don't know if I posted the video on Facebook about the science behind this, but I'll try and post a link in it again in this description, because it kind of shows the science of this kind of breathing techniques and how it affects the body, and it's phenomenal what you can achieve with this. And Sadhguru has taken this and got rid of so many aspects that he would call occult, that weren't particularly bad, but just within this day and age aren't particularly necessary, and could be dangerous if wrongly used. Like, this is probably a process, Shambhavi Mahamudra, that would have been taught to yogis and their disciples or whoever else after probably a lot of training before you get initiated into this Kriya, because it's a very powerful tool, and wrongly used and abused and wrongly taught could do a lot of damage. But on that note, I also feel that, you know, even what we call the physical yoga or hatha yoga, which isn't, and this is where the annoying thing comes, is being massively wrongly taught and abused across the world, especially in the West. I had a really good yoga teacher to start with that was based in Clitheroe, which was where I was living at the time, and she was amazing. She was very good at yoga. I could tell that it was doing her a lot of good in her life, because she seemed quite content. However, unfortunately, these techniques have been spread across the world for over thousands of years, and I think, like they were telling us, there's only 80 odd to 100 postures in yoga asanas. An asana is a posture. And that's it. You know, the fundamentals. But now there's 600 plus variations of all of these. And yes, things change. You know, Chinese whispers and everything else. These things evolve so quickly. But you know, these techniques are so powerful, especially if you are taught correctly. That they are much more than just bending your body in certain positions to make yourself feel good. Now, you know, if you study yoga without any inkling of spirituality or a spiritual kind of transcendence, that's fine, and you will get something out of it if you just listen and stick to the postures, and you're really aware when you're doing the postures, and you're focusing on your breath, and you're focusing on your body and constantly improving. Then you will have you could still have a transcendence experience, or you could still have massive transformations in your life without, you know, needing to place your belief in anything that you maybe not understand. But learning yoga asanas, I learned a lot of postures that I've learned before, similar postures that I've learned before. But the way that this was taught, and the fundamental understanding that was behind this course, and the way that, you know, they don't tell you what to feel at all, not even what muscle it should be working or anything. It's just do X, Y, and Z. Make sure your hand's on the floor in this angle, make sure your foot's like this, make sure blah, 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 make sure you're breathing like this. That's it. And if you do it fundamental, you know, as I'm learning the practices, I'll do something and I'll go, oh, that doesn't feel right. And then I'll kind of, you'll remember, oh, you need to make sure your shoulders are definitely on the floor at this point. And I'll change position a tiny bit, and something clicks, and I go, that's where it is. And you just, they just taught so well, and I feel like there's just so much yoga across the world that could be doing quite a lot of damage to people, and I feel like I've probably done damage to myself and my back especially, by pushing things without, maybe not, this is the problem, it's not maybe the teacher's fault, because the teacher will know what they're doing, they'll know their body, and they'll have been taught from someone else that'll have said the process from a certain perspective. So it's not the teacher's fault. The teacher could, you know, you could go and sit in the mountains and experiment with your body and probably come to very similar conclusions. However, you know, in a day like we are in today, in these days where we're so rationally logic driven, it's very, very crucial, the exact words that are said. And I just felt that these were, you know, the way that you kind of use videos, so you make sure that whoever you're watching doing this, it's exactly the same, and it's been looked at by someone that's incredibly knowledgeable about this, and that exactly how it is taught is scripted. It doesn't change from person to person. There's no, even when you ask a question, these questions they know the answers, because there's only certain answers that can be said. You know, the teachers have very little interaction into the process, because the process has been, you know, moulded so much over so long that it doesn't need interaction, it doesn't need evolving. It is incredibly good as it is. So yeah, I just kind of want to put that little warning out, because I feel I've done damage to myself that's going to take a lot of mending. And I feel like a lot of people kind of jumping on certain yoga programs, A, could do a lot of damage, and B, may not see the full extent of the power of these processes. And they might just feel a little bit better in the physical and feel like they're doing it as a fitness thing. But then they miss all the way that it enables you to balance the convolution of our mind and our thoughts, and then therefore the kind of energy systems as well, and allows us to become more open to the energies that control our body and that are all around us in the world. And the aim is to balance all three of them, and that fundamental understanding that seems to be taught here is, even just peeping through the door of the possibilities is so powerful. So yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, so I met quite a lot of amazing people over the past few weeks, like a lot, and I've made a couple of really close friends already. I think I'm going to do a little bit of travelling just for a couple of weeks with a couple of them. And I've met so many other people that I've had incredible conversations with, and there's so many archetypes of personalities that I've met here that I've been surrounded with in my whole life. And what I mean by that is that, you start to really see the individualism is a kind of a thing that we create within ourselves. There's so many people I meet here that just have so many character traits and personality traits and energies that I've experienced before in other people in so many degrees that it's scary. And these same people come into my lives for the similar reasons that, my friends and family have all my life. And it's crazy here because there's such a pool of people from so many different places, all with one common thing, that we're all on the search of transformation. But there's still all the same human traits, and I've met some incredible people, and I've met some people that have really tested me already, both good and bad. And when I say bad, I don't mean bad, I just mean that it definitely brings up traits of my personality that I'm kind of like, there is no escaping these things, these parts of me that have maybe caused me pain or kind of confusion in the past are still getting tested here. And that's the beautiful thing about this place, that the longer I'm here, the more I start to see the true value of a place like this, whether or not you give any kind of any thought to the practices or the knowledge that's being taught. Just having a space where people come to transform, like when people come together with that same thing, it seems like the transformational process on a personal level just gets like put into overdrive, because everyone's just so on it, It's crazy, and you can feel it here. And yeah, just these pools of energy that manifest themselves in people and scenarios and so many things, conversations, are very transformational. And the more I become aware of the kind of cycles of these in my life, and how certain kinds of people come into my life at certain points, and certain conversations and certain thought paths, and this is on the outside world and the inside world, and that is affected by it. Yeah, it's just funny. It's funny. It's great. But I've met some really amazing people. I've made some good friends that I feel like I'm going to stay quite connected with for a long time. And one of them is going to be leaving literally just as the new year starts, which is when I was kind of planning on doing a little bit of travelling up to Nepal to get my visa, through India to Nepal to get my visa to come back in June to start Sadhanapada in July. But yeah, so I wasn't wanting to rush through any programs at all. I was quite conscious that just learning Surya Kriya, I was kind of like, this is hardcore, and this is going to take a lot of mastering, and I don't want to overburden myself to the point where I can't deal with it. But as is my life, I like things to be intense and full on, and I like to jump in the deep end first. And even though I made that decision and I was like, I'm going to do Sadhanapada, I'm going to take it easy through it, Yoga Asanas came up, someone suggested I should do it, So I just kind of went with it and did it, and I'm glad I did, because it feels like I've got a balanced day-to-day practice now. But the main program that I was really, really intrigued in doing is called BSP, Bhava. And it's an experiential process. Not much is talked about it, and I think I've said this in other videos, but it, to me, seems like what I've had experience with psychotropic experiences, plant medicines and things, is it's an experience that you go into with an idea to open up and deal with positive and negative things that maybe you are holding within, that may be holding you back, and to just deal with your perspective on the world and try and open up to a more positive and more truthful perspective on reality. Not much is taught about the program, and I'm not going to be able to tell you much once I go through it, but I have been booked onto it because of my friends seem to get, even though I kind of signed up as soon as I got here and they said I'm on a waiting list because of so many things, but he managed to get the place. So I've been booked onto it, and I'm going to be doing that on Christmas Day on the 25th through to the 28th. So I will be in isolation for those days. So sorry if I don't wish you Merry Christmas, but I'll try and, you know, get a bit of festivities out as soon as I can. But I'm really excited for it, and homework's already begun, and I'm sure I can tell you what the homework is. The homework is to write as much as I possibly can about love, health and happiness within my life, both positive and negative, about relationships with families, friends, work, society, both positive and negative, and write as much as I physically can. And that has already been a transformational thing. I probably wrote more than I've wrote in a textbook. Like, I got this school textbook, which just seems really ironic, that says it's obviously like some seconds that they've got from somewhere, and it says like a path to freedom or something on it, and it's got some, I don't know, Greek statue on it. It's quite funny. But I've wrote like 100 pages already. No, yeah, about 100 pages, which is crazy. And God, like, I started at the beginning of my life, as far back as I could remember, which was interesting, and now it's just turned into this random pool of thoughts and experiences and memories, and the more you delve into that, the more things come up, which is what's crazy. And I've kind of forced myself into doing this over the past few years, especially in the kind of psychoactive experiences that I had, because, you know, I knew that we all suppress things and we all push things down, and we all, it's just a natural thing that we do, and we all deal with things differently, and sometimes it's good to really look in the mirror and see maybe how experiences affected us and how it makes us who we are, and then when we understand more who we are and how we work and why, you know, we have a better understanding of this machine and this body and this mind and this thing that I'm in, to be able to kind of move in a direction that's more positive. Or just to be able to see see life in a more positive light, rather than kind of get beaten off every side, just go with the flow a bit more. So I've kind of done a lot of soul searching and a lot of this over the past few years, especially over the last year. You know, I feel like I've opened up a lot more to friends and family about a lot of things, and I've already felt a massive burden, but just like burden release, but just writing this and spending the time doing this has already been incredibly transformational. And I know I just want to try and write as much as physically possible, because what people say about coming out of BSP is transformational, and so many people here that have been here a long time, we start a conversation about something really profound and they just say, have you done BSP? Because if they can only talk about it once you've done it. So people have had powerful, life-changing experiences, but obviously they can't talk about it if you haven't done it. So I'm really excited for that, and that's going to be really good. And I don't know how transformational it's going to be, but I'm trying to just let go and go with it. You know, I feel like I've had some big transformations over the you know, not too distant past, and this will be really exciting, because this is just a completely experiential 4 days, both days and night, meant to be quite intense, very emotionally tiring, and people's emotions are meant to hit some extreme peaks. Now, this was the one program that I really watched people talk about, lots of things. They'd put it side by side to maybe the psychoactive experiences they'd had, and everyone had said this far outweighed it in terms of how transformational it was. So that fills me with, a lot of excitement. But I'm also just going to take it as it comes. The writing process I find very therapeutic. I'm brought to a lot of emotions all the time, although I'm feeling a lot more balanced with my emotions, even just in this month that I've been here. I'm finding it a lot easier to ride my emotions and not kind of be so swayed into kind of pits and holes. So that's really good. And then, I might be booking onto Shunya, which is hilarious because I've pretty much done like most of the kind of major programs I wanted to do in the space of a few months, which wasn't my original plan. But it just seems to be happening. People seem to be kind of pushing me in certain directions, and it just seems to work. And there was an Indian guy I met that said he read something in the Sadhguru book where Sadhguru was just like, just do it, Like if you are actually heading on this path of spiritual transformation, like it doesn't matter how incrementally or gradually or intensely you do it. If you really, really want to go on this path, just do it. Just go hardcore, because you just reap the benefits sooner, or at least the longer you get to practice these things, the more powerful they can be. So I'm booking onto Shunya, which is another thing that I don't know too much about. I just know that it's an incredible technique where you learn a few things. They're the two main advanced programs before you get to Samyama, which is the ultimate, which is what I'll hopefully be doing after the 7 months of Sadhanapada, which I'll go more to in the future. But so Shunya's another thing that could be really useful. There's a process in it that's meant to be like having 3 hours sleep in 15 minutes. And I've seen people that practice it come back to the volunteering and just seem like they've just had an incredible energy boost. So some days I could really do with that. The volunteering's been amazing. I've done so much stuff. There's too much to talk about. Like I said, incredible friendships and communications have been made. And then so I probably won't do a video now until after I've finished BSP, in the new year, maybe even after I've finished Shunya. But I think they're going to be quite long, so maybe do 2. And then I'm going to be travelling, and I've got a very loose idea what I'm going to do. There's 4 major kind of spiritual Shiva temples in India, north, east, south, west. One of them, unfortunately, I might not be able to go to because it's closed, but I will do that before I head home. But I'd like to do a pilgrimage to each one of these because they're meant to be very powerful spaces. Located in cities where the amount of devotion towards this understanding of reality and life and the divinity that's within it can go to points where people haven't moved their hand for 40 years and the nails are all grown along the floor, and like crazy feats of devotion, which I think and even the design and build of these spaces and temples, it's like seeing the pyramids. And I think especially I'm so glad I've come here before I do this travelling, because I'm really going to appreciate these spaces and not just see it as a massive culture shock. Like I see a lot of this devotion here. I see a lot of the power of truthful understanding of how incredibly, unbelievably magical and divine this life is. And what's really funny, and it resonates with me on a level, is these temples and the stories that I'm learning about Hinduism or certain Hindu stories, and there's so many because it's not really religion like we've gone into in the previous videos. And if you haven't watched the talk that I did with the Hungarian religious scholar, check it out. It was the last video I posted because it blew my mind, and it's really shown me even more magic in the world. But it really is funny because it just shows me how much Tolkien must have taken ideas from Hinduism and these myths and legends, because so many of these names sound so elvish. So many of these stories are just so fantastical, but in a beautifully real way. And that's why I loved Lord of the Rings and Tolkien, because he took Norse history and Hinduism and so many things, and he put them in a fantastical world that felt real because it had these real things in it. They were based on real places and real stories and real myths, and that's what made them so magical. The most magical, fantastical things are things that could be real. They're that close from being reality, And you know what's funny? The more I go through this process, the more I actually start thinking, God, you know, actually some of these things that I thought never in a million actually could be more real than I give credit to. And, you know, all you need to do is look at the simple things in life to know it's magic, you know, from how my body turns a carrot into this. Like, oh, you know, it's magic. And it's crazy when you really look at it, you know, science and yogic science and everything, it's magic. You just have to open your eyes. In the great words of Roald Dahl, if you don't believe in magic, you'll never find it. And that resonates with me. And, you know, it doesn't mean you have to have blind belief. Don't have blind belief. Experiment, do the research, do what feels right. Find your own magic, because the world's full of it. There's enough to share. So yeah, crazy life. And it's going really well. But I'll catch up with you in the new year. I haven't lit an incense, and I was doing that as a timing thing because I can't see my phone. But I've run out of matches. So this could be really long. So if you stayed with me this far, awesome. I'm not sure when to get any B-roll for the start of this because I haven't got permission to film in a lot of these places, and I shouldn't really probably be filming here, although I've made sure it's out of the way and not capturing anything too important. And when I come back, I will definitely try and get permission and kind of hopefully show a bit more of this place for anyone that's interested. But I might try and get some of the Adiyogi projections tonight, because that really sums up, it's incredible visual light display, but it also sums up yoga and the origins of the Adiyoga and Shiva, and it's awesome. So if I film that, I might stick that at the end of this as a separate video. I know I said that last time, but that'd be kind of cool. So yeah, I hope you're all doing well. Sending you tons of love, and yeah, I'll catch up with you soon. Namaskaram.